What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Formula America podcast. We're your hosts, Kurt and Dylan, and this is that bittersweet moment, Dylan. 23 long races, longest season in history, and it's come to a conclusion.
And McLaren is a constructor world champion.
Yes!
Which neither one of its drivers were alive for last time.
First time in 26 years. That's what was so cool about this is you had McLaren and Ferrari. Yeah. Neither one of them have won this in a long time. This sport has been dominated by Red Bull and Mercedes, taking turns since when?
2010 was when Vettel got his first.
Man, it was, you know what? Although the race in entirety wasn't the most exciting race.
It was a good race.
It was a good race. Yeah. Like there was some boring parts in the middle, but it was such a good race. And to see some of the storylines play out that we got to see, man, this was awesome.
It was like great for some. It was sad for others. Like, I mean,
oh my God.
K-Mag.
Yeah.
Poor dude. I mean, what a bad last race to have when he and Bottas crashed there at the end. You're just like, dude, I'm sorry. Like,
that was a hard hit.
That was a hard hit.
Bottas just locked him up and torpedoed right into him. That was bad.
Bottas pulled a K-Mag on K-Mag.
It's a poetic way to end your career. Man. And then the other, we just got to talk about it. Checo, man, first lap on what was not even. It didn't look like that serious of a hit, and and
I feel like we've said it too many times. It's not that Checo did anything really wrong, but of course Checo went out.
Yeah,
like of course, he got taken out on the first lap in what we hope is his last race. Like. And I'm pulling up his season. He's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 DNFs on the season.
Yeah.
Like
I don't have the exact number in front of me. I want to say it was like either $7 or $8 million in crashes from Checo alone. Something
crazy, whose teammate, didn't DNF a single time technically because they said he was. No, it was Lando that they said was 7 laps down on Austria when he and Max crashed. But Max finished that. It's just, of course, Checo went out in the first lap.
And this is the first time in an interview afterwards where he kind of cracked. He still said, I have a contract for next year, but you could also kind of see is like, taking that mask off, like, this might be it.
Yeah.
But all right. So
let's talk about lap 1, turn 1.
Hold on. Before we get into that, I want to talk about Max Verstappen taking provisional pole while drifting it across the line in quali.
Bro.
Which I think anybody else, that car is going into the wall in pieces. The part that I love the most is from watching his onboard. He didn't lift. He did not let off. He just sent it around that turn. That was incredible. I thought that car was done.
Yeah, I did too. I saw him come around that corner and go sideways, and I was like, this is it. He's about to slam that wall, and quali's over. And God, dog, what a drive.
Then to still put it on P1. Man,
I wish he had a heart rate monitor on, because I bet that had to spike. It had to, even for a machine like him.
Yeah, for sure. You keep it cool and collected as much as you want to, but that'll make you pucker up a little bit.
Yeah, I think so.
All right, now turn 1. Well, just lap 1 in general. Lap 1 in general was this was probably one of the more eventful lap 1s, because there was not just turn 1 incident. There was incidents basically all of lap 1.
Not to mention Leclerc passing 11 people.
Leclerc had an incredible start.
Like
he was on fire. That one for a team that. And that's one thing about Leclerc. You could tell he was so emotionally invested in this race and properly sending off Carlos with a strong. He wanted that championship. For him to make up that many spots on lap 1 was just incredible.
And how ominous and daunting it was. You have a McLaren 1-2. You have Sainz in third place and Leclerc in the back of the pack with Hamilton going, this sucks. And then all of a sudden at the end of lap 1, you have 2 Ferraris in the fight, 1 McLaren, and one of the McLarens is way in the back. And you're like, whoa, this took a hard turn.
His engineer was like, you're in P8. And he's just like, what?
Yeah.
Like, I would be too. It's disbelief, I'm sure.
It was insane. I bet Zach Brown and Andrea Stella went from like, all right, we got this to, oh shit.
Oh, you know they did. Yeah, for sure. All right, so let's talk about this because for me, this is one of the highlights of the race because I think it was kind of it was a little test between Max and Oscar. So you got to see Max had a good start, like he generally does, past signs, and then immediately just sends it up the inside of Oscar Piastri in turn 1, and they both spin out, which is exciting to see that. But the part I love about that is I remember I've said it was a couple of races ago, maybe after Mexico. We talked about how Max always does that, and he does that to Lando, and Lando always gives it to him. And I remember saying, I was like, if he ever did that to Oscar, I don't think Oscar's giving it to him. And Oscar, I'm sure he knew what was going on, and he did not budge. He was like, here I am. And so for me, that was like a little test from Max, and Oscar fought back. It's like fighting back against the bully. And now he knows that he can't do that with Oscar Piastri.
Yes and no. I agree with what you're saying, and I appreciate Oscar for doing that. But I think that if that was what was going through Oscar's head while you have the Constructor Championship on the line, bad move. That's not a race intelligent move. Sure, you showed Max, who still beat you, that you weren't going to concede, which is more than Lando can say. But and I say all of that. I also want to say this was 1,000% Max's fault. He deserved that penalty, and it was completely unnecessary on his part. I appreciate the aggressive driving. I appreciate that you still have the World Drivers' Championship. You've already won it. You have nothing to prove, and you're still throwing it up the inside. But it was unnecessary. He's lucky he didn't get T-boned from the back and out of the race. I loved what Oscar said. As soon as he finished spinning, ice in his veins. That's the move of a world champion right there. And you're like, yeah, that's well said.
Basically, yeah.
I really didn't think that was necessary from Max's side.
Definitely not. And so because of that, he got a 10-second penalty and 2 more penalty points on his license.
Yes.
So now he's going into the season with 8 penalty points. And
did you hear what he said about that?
No, I didn't.
The post race, someone brought that up. He goes, awesome. Well, maybe I can line it up to get a race suspension when the baby comes so I can take that week off.
That's awesome. That is incredible. We have to do some calculating and see which race around where she's supposed to have the baby.
Yeah. I did not appreciate that move for Max as a Max fan. I was just like, really? Come on. You're more mature, intelligent driver than that, Max.
There's another thing I was thinking about with that is how many times throughout the season have we seen something in other seasons as well, something like that happens, especially turn 1, but lap 1, especially turn 1, lap 1, they kind of get a little pass. Like normally it's like, hey, it's a racing incident. This time they didn't though.
He didn't deserve a pass. He deserved that 10-second penalty.
Yeah, that was unnecessary for sure. But I am so pleased, even though it probably wasn't the smartest move. I'm so pleased that Oscar held it in there and did not just yank it to the right and back off.
Yeah, I completely agree there. And I don't think Max no one ever intends to crash, but like if you watch the onboard, that car understeered hard. Cold tires, yep. Max was turning the wheel, and it was, he just had too much speed. He just drifted out into Oscar. Oscar could have probably moved over a little bit and been okay, maybe. But now we're in speculation land.
Yeah, for sure.
Somehow neither one of them picked up 1 iota of damage from that.
Yeah.
Pirouetted in the middle of the racetrack and continued on.
Oscar definitely got the worst of it. Max really didn't drop that far. He got it right back under control and kept on moving down the road.
Yeah. It was pretty impressive. And then, 2 turns later, Bottas bumps Perez and somehow ends his race. In one of my beefs with this weekend, I didn't think the video director did a very good job. There was a lot of times that we were staring somewhere else, and the commentators were like, "What happened over here? What's going on? Why?" You could tell they're like, "Where's the replay?" And it just didn't come. Or it was like watching something kind of irrelevant, and I like multiple times I was very frustrated, and I could tell Crofty and Brundle were too with the video director.
Yeah, that was especially at the very end when Lewis was fighting, which I understand. Lando's about to cross and he's going to win, but at least give us a picture-in-picture. You know?
Yeah. Like there was that, the whole first lap, like they went back and showed the Piastri Max thing, but it wasn't until like 10 laps later that they showed Perez. It was like, what the hell's happening? Why is Perez out all of a sudden? What's going on? And they're like, and they continued on and like never re-showed it. I was like, what's happening?
I didn't know until way after the race that Yuki Tsunoda essentially stalled on the starting line.
Yes.
And I didn't even notice because everything going on at the front.
Well, there was like 12 race start infractions they kept saying, but there was like no replay. It was like, what is going on with the race start? Like, why are all these infringements? There's no replay here.
Yeah. It was definitely challenging, I guess, for the race director, or not the race director, TV director.
Yeah, it definitely was. But I mean, dude, Lando drove lights out, controlled the race the entire way through. Their strategy was on point. We went into this with Pirelli saying a 2-stop's probably the way to go. And there's a lot of the back markers that dove in early, making it look like a 2-stop was what was going to happen. And the leaders just kind of kept going. All of a sudden, you're at like half race distance, and now they're pitting, and you're like, oh, damn. Oh, okay, I guess there's that.
Yeah, I really like the strategy of starting Lewis on the hards.
It worked out so well for him.
He did. And for him, I know that he was like he's been the past few races. I know he was downtrodden or a little bit beat down. But to be fair, even though he qualified, P18?
Yep.
Is that what it was?
P18.
Yeah, P18. I think that he was probably pretty disheartened until he saw that it was the bollard stuck under his car. Because in his interview afterwards, he didn't seem that down, which I feel like normally he would have been.
Everybody, even the Terminator came onto the radio and was like, Lewis, we're sorry, it was a bad timing. and then you see the bollard and everyone was like, oh.
Yeah,
okay.
That car's going to have no downforce.
Yeah, that makes sense then.
Complete dumb luck for him to hit that when he did. But the fact that he was able to recover and then put him on hards, run it long, get on those mediums, and his car just came alive on those mediums. And to see him chasing that down, that was incredible.
Chasing Russell down the last like 7 laps. You're like, come on, Lewis.
He came out of the pits lap 35. He was 18 and a half seconds behind Russell. I didn't think there was a chance in hell. I was like, he's got P5. Maybe that's going to be a struggle. But then to see that time clicking down, that's like the Lewis Hamilton in his prime that everybody loves. And we're so happy. At least I was so happy to be able to see that one more time in that Mercedes instead of him going out just depressed and just
I totally agree. It was awesome to watch. And it reminded me, what was the recent race that Russell won and Lewis was like 10 seconds behind him and started hunting him down? And I remember Crofty was like, you do not give Lewis Hamilton hope. Like his race engineer needs to be telling Russell speed up and shut that hope down. You do not give that man a chance. And he smelt it. And I did love, they talked about it later. And I watched the onboard. Bono came over the radio as soon as he came out of the pits and said, all right, Lewis, hammer time. Yeah, bro, he did it. It was like awesome.
Goosebumps. It's goosebumps. Even Lewis was like in the moment. It was emotional because I knew that was the last time I was going to hear that. And I remember, every time you'd hear that before, it's I don't know what it is. Like you just say that and it just switches them on. And it was, man, that was incredible to see.
I loved it. It was so awesome. And Leclerc as well. Holy shit, what a drive from Leclerc. Both of those dudes coming from the back of the pack all the way to the front was incredible.
Yep. Yeah, that was definitely cool to see. Man, what about... I went back and I rewatched that Liam Lawson.
I've got a note right here. The crazy thing about that was when they showed the onboard when he was on the track and you saw the sparks in the tire wobble. It was like, oh man, that's got to have some pucker factor.
Come over and be like, the tire's not on, mate. But man, that sucks for whoever that left front wheel man is. Because when it fell off the jack, he didn't even try to go back and hit it.
No,
I don't know.
Yeah, that was a swing and a miss and a heavy penalty as well.
That was
As it should be.
That was a 10-second stop and go for unsafe release, basically, or unsafe conditions.
Sucks for Liam because it's not the driver's fault, really. But I mean, you kind of got to hammer safety things like that. That tire comes flying off like it did in Interlagos last year, and took out 3 cars. Like you can't have that. Let's talk about Bottas locking it up, taking K-Mag out, exploding his front wing. Like, oof.
Bottas didn't have the best race. For somebody who was so happy after qualifying and thought that he was in for the points, I guess maybe that's why he was driving extra hard.
Yeah.
He hit Checo, he hit K-Mag. He got a penalty, I think, for the one with Checo, didn't he?
He did.
Was that his 10-second penalty?
Yep.
Yeah, but man, that hit against K-Mag though, that was a hard one.
That was a hard one, and not much K-Mag could do about it. Like you're turning into the apex of the turn. A driver's there, but I don't think you think that he's not going to take the turn.
I'm sure that caught K-Mag 100% by surprise.
There's a turn there, mate.
Yeah, it's like, what are you doing? And that one was a wild one, just to see. It looked like everything was normal, and then you just see him just lock it up and just go straight on into him.
Yeah, it was crazy. I want to slight change of subject, but they talked about it during quali, and I think it highlights what a year this has been. Max's Q1 qualifying time, his first time that he set on the board in Q1, was equivalent to his pole setting time last year in the RB19.
Damn.
That's how much faster. Like we all complain, the RB20 is not as good as the RB19. No, it's better. It's better, but everybody's development has picked up that freaking much. And I thought that was really, they brought that up and it was like, oh shit, I didn't really think about that. That's impressive.
When you put it in perspective like that, it's wild to think about that. Yeah. You think that the RB20 is just a dog compared to the RB19, but no.
It's an upgrade, literally. It's just everybody's upgraded that much. And I think that's why Pirelli was expecting a 2-stopper. That's what most of them did last year. But the cars this year are better, and they're managing their tires better, and they don't deg them so bad. And now you're pulling 1-stops out. And it's just fun to see the evolution, and it gets me even more excited for next season.
Yeah. Oh, man. Next season is going to be amazing.
Lando thinks it's going to be his season. I thought that was hilarious.
I don't know why, because it is going to be Lando's season next year.
Yeah, I mean, this one could have been too, but
I think it could have been. But I like that he came out and said in an interview, he was like, I thought I was ready for a championship fight, but now I realize I wasn't. And then he said, but now I am.
Yeah, well, scoreboard says that.
So now, hey, and look what he did. He said, now I am, and now he won the race. Hands
he did.
Down.
He drove a stellar race. Totally deserved that win.
So next season is going to be amazing just to see. For one, I'm most excited about the Lando Piastri team, like the fight there.
I'm pretty excited for Ferrari.
Play out. Ferrari is definitely a big question mark, but I'm really excited to see that. Oh yeah, before we go, remember, or did you see Lewis's outfits from the weekend?
Yes, all red.
That was awesome because he started off. What?
Go ahead, finish that part.
I was gonna say, so he started off the first day in black, and then he did black and white, and then he did white and red, and then he did all red. So to see all the pictures, it's like that transition. It's amazing.
That was good. And how was Lewis Hamilton the only one to do donuts at the end?
Man, I was so sad about that. I wanted to see Lewis, Carlos. I was hoping Bottas would be up there. Bottas obviously
Max deserved to do some donuts. Like I thought Lando would do some donuts. McLaren deserved. I thought we were going to have like a line of people down the pit straight doing donuts. And it was, I don't mind that it was just Lewis, but like also it was anticlimactic. Okay.
So on that, so for one, before Zhou Guanyu did donuts. Did you see that?
No, I missed that. Where did he do donuts at?
Zhou Guanyu pulled off on a.
Were they intentional donuts or?
Yes, they were. It was a dark. It was a dark part of the track, and people were. The thing on Instagram was like he pulled off away from the TV cameras. There was no grandstands there. He was like, so he wasn't doing it for the fans. He's doing it just for himself. But he did a couple donuts and then kept going. But I also saw the FIA had released a document beforehand outlining how the donuts were to be done. And so it was supposed to be the top 3 cars plus Lewis Hamilton if Lewis wasn't in the top 3. So it outlined that he would have his bollard there that he'd pull up to afterwards or whatever. But it had on there marks for all 4 cars to be doing donuts. The top 3 just drove straight to the boards, and Lewis was the only one that did it. So it was planned to have 4 people doing donuts. And it's strange that the FIA actually released a document stating where and when to do your donuts.
Yeah, typical bureaucracy of the FIA.
Yeah, you will do 2 donuts in a counterclockwise
exactly
direction.
Right.
Any more and you get fined.
Or community service. Let's do these heroes and zeros.
Yes, community service. Before we move on, I saw that Max Verstappen is set to serve his community service in Rwanda. When they do the prize giving ceremony. I don't think he's going to do anything, or if he does,
I saw that, but I thought it was I thought it was a joke. Is that
I don't
real?
know.
Like I saw the same thing, but I was like, that's kind of funny, and moved on.
I don't know. We'll see. I don't know what he's actually supposed. He just said it had to do some good for the community, so who knows?
I got a lot of comments. I'm going to leave them out. All right. Zeros, heroes, and zeros.
Why don't you go ahead? We'll start off at the bottom, and why don't you start off with your zeros?
I'm going to put Max Verstappen as a 0 for this race. I know. And I'm an unbiased presenter. I'm a professional, Kurt.
Look, guys, I put him as a 0 one time.
I thought turn 1 was really not necessary. And while Max has his reasons to disagree with the F1, with stewards, with the race director, and I think a lot of them are warranted, when he served his 10-second time penalty, came out and was like, why don't we do 20 next time, huh, you stupid idiots? It's like, dude, that's just, you've gone from unnecessary to unprofessional. You deserve that 10-second time penalty, maybe even a 20-second time penalty. It's a stupid accident. And while I love raging against the man and doing a lot of the things he's done against their stupider violations, I really disagreed with that and thought it was really unprofessional. And Martin Brundle vehemently was going off about how bad that was that Max did it. He was like, hey man, they're applying regulations. They're doing their job. You don't he was really against it. And I totally agreed. I thought that was just uncalled for, not classy.
Yeah. I listened to the DC and Julian Palmer broadcast, but yeah, when he said that, I was just
Brundle went off for like 20, 30 seconds.
To go back and watch that.
Yeah, he was not cool with it.
After he said that, I was waiting for it to say Max Verstappen 20-second time penalty for disparaging comments or something like that, you know?
He kind of
asked for it.
He would have deserved it on that one. I thought it was really not classy at all.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm going to put Piastri on here. Not really because of anything he did, just a shitty last race of the season, man. Taken out by Max. He went to pass, was it K-Mag, and lost all the air over his front wing, went super wide. I mean, he finished the race.
He rear-ended Colapinto.
That's another one.
Ruined his race, yeah.
It was just like a oof. He finished it in 10th place. He got 1 point. It's just a bad... Again, I don't really think it was all Oscar's fault, but damn, dude, that's a bad race.
It for somebody who needed to be up there in order to fight off, we needed a 2-car battle. Yeah, 2 cars fighting. Luckily, Lando was so far ahead, but man, if any of those Ferraris were able to catch Lando, that would have been it for the constructors. So yeah, and a time where Piastri needed to kind of err on the side of caution a little bit more, maybe probably not the best. But he proved the point.
He did prove
Max knows now.
And Max still doesn't care.
No.
I've got a couple alternatives on here, but I'm going to do it, hopefully, I hope, for the last time, Checo Perez. Who I would argue, you know how in the NFL draft, the last pick of the draft is nicknamed Mr. Irrelevant?
I did not know that.
So the last pick of the NFL draft has always been Mr. Irrelevant.
That sucks.
And Perez, to me, is Mr. Irrelevant. Perez could have not raced this year, Nothing for Red Bull would have changed except from $7 million more in their pocket. He's what DNF'd. Where was this drivers? Hang on one second. He's DNF'd how many of the last couple of races?
The last two for
sure. He's DNF'd the last two. He DNF'd Azerbaijan. Between Azerbaijan and this one, he's done 10th place, 7th place, 17th, 11th, and 10th. So he's gotten 2 points.
Yep.
Oh no, he had a 7th in there, so he got 6 points there. Just Mr. Irrelevant. Like,
I agree.
And then you go out and lap one for getting your rear. I wish someone would elaborate on that. Why did he?
Yeah, I haven't.
They said power unit failure, but you don't have power unit failure for getting tapped on the rear.
Yeah. The broadcast I was listening to mentioned that apparently there was rumors that he had older parts on the car and maybe they were worn out and not able to withstand a little love tap from a stake. I don't know. It seemed like it was the easiest, like most gentle hit that there could have been, but it just took it out. So I think Helmut Marko had a destroy button somewhere and just like, we've had enough of this.
Checo went to last place and they're like, I don't want you embarrassing us. Just pull over.
Yeah.
So that I'm hoping for the last time, whether he stays in the sport or not. I just don't want him on the zeros list anymore.
Damn. Okay. Just kick him on his way out.
That's what I'm hoping.
All right. So I am going to put Bottas on there.
Yeah.
I think that he just went out and for somebody that wanted to do so good, you ended Checo's race, ended K-Mag's race, ended your own race. Like it was just a terror out there. And I did enjoy the comments afterwards where he came out and he said if he could go back in time.
Yeah.
It's like the Interstellar scene.
Yes.
He's like, don't go.
Don't do it. Yeah, that was pretty enlightening. You're like, ooh, man, that's pretty rough. Yep. And then he's got a 5-place grid penalty that will maybe never be served.
5 place. Yep. 5-place grid penalty for whatever race he competes in Formula One. I wonder if, since it's the FIA, if
he goes over to Le Mans and they're like 5 places.
He's like, oh, come on. I thought I was out of this. All right. So after him, I'm going to go with that VCAR pit crew. Man, 10-second stop and go. It's not like Liam was actually doing that well at the time.
No.
But for somebody who is kind of in the fight for that Red Bull seat, which I still don't agree with, man. I think Yuki Tsunoda needs that seat, but clearly there's more politics going on. But for somebody who's in that fight and kind of needed a really good performance, not really his fault, but still, it's one of those procedural errors that should never happen.
Yeah, and it's a safety issue, and it ruined his race. And I agree.
And let's see. I don't have that many, but there's one that I would like to put on here just because I'm not going to be able to put him on my zeros list for a few months. I'm going to go with Lance Stroll. He got a black and white flag for track limits on I don't know.
Like lap
It was
8.
like the first 10 laps. Yeah. He got, what was his 5-second penalty for? Was it for track limits?
Probably. That guy was just a menace to society
He had his 5-second penalty and just Lance Stroll in general. He's just
on the zeros list permanently.
He is. He has his goal. Normally he's always on the zeros list and it's up to him to take himself off. That's how I operate. For everybody else, it's up to them to put themselves on.
Lance Stroll got 13th in the driver's standings, 24 points. He beat Ocon, Magnussen, Albon, and a lot of the rookies and Williams.
Yep. And so I looked it up. His time penalty was for leaving the track without a justifiable reason multiple times. 5 seconds added to his elapsed race time. So there you go. Lance Stroll for the last time.
I like
that
it.
felt good to say.
All right. Who's on your heroes list?
Heroes list. I'm sure that we are going to have some overlap. I feel like we cannot. First and foremost, got to give it to Norris and McLaren together. World champion or constructors champions. First time in 26 years. Lando drove one hell of a weekend.
He did.
Qualified P1, just drove away with it. Good for him. Good for them. So yeah.
What a turnaround. I know this season's been so long, but last year, in the beginning of this year, that car was hot garbage.
It was by far the slowest. It was behind the Alpines. It was behind the Saubers back there. It was behind everybody.
To constructors champions. Wow.
That's a hell of a turnaround. 1.5 seasons.
Yeah.
So good for them. I'm excited to see what the future holds there. My next one, I feel like it has to be Lewis. Going from P18 to P4, the way he drove was amazing. It was one of those like emotional moments, like seeing him get out at the end. And
that hammer time gave me goosebumps when they said it. For sure. I was like, yes.
Yep. And to see when he got out at the end, a car that he has had a love-hate relationship with this year.
Mainly
it got
hate.
Him his mainly hate. Yeah, mostly hate. It got him his first win though in years. Ever since Abu Dhabi 2021, his season and his that car and that team has just done a nosedive. But that car got him his first win this year. He's got a couple wins under his belt this year. It went back to being a piece of crap and he hated it. And now for what it did, it came and it gave him one good race at the end. So that was pretty cool to see.
I 1000% agree.
End of an era. I know he's not leaving the sport. People are like, oh, why is everybody
the end of an era,
up
though.
in arms? Yeah, hell yeah. Big end of an era. And my last one, I got to go with, even though he was not a happy camper at the end of the race, Charles Leclerc. He drove lights out, P14 to P3. Just really good. The way that he sounded when he kept checking to see, kind of like last year, kept checking to see how close they were, if they're going to win it. And he's just like, man, I just wanted to win this for Carlos. I think that, I don't know, he's a good guy. I like
not P14, P19.
Oh, yeah.
P19.
Because because of his penalty.
Yeah, like I totally agree. I have the exact same heroes list. I'm not changing it. They deserve it.
Yep,
100%. The funny part about Leclerc, who was so emotional, so wrapped up in it, is after the podium, they were filming the F1 podium and he had to go back up and do a fake podium as P2
with Brad Pitt. Yeah.
I thought that was hilarious.
That was definitely funny. Did you see that after the race, who was it? It was like the Prince or something like that, put the entire McLaren team on his jet, flew them to Bahrain, I think, and had a party.
I did not see that.
They flew them somewhere. They flew them all somewhere, and they had a huge party for the whole McLaren team.
That's awesome.
It is, except for the caterers. Apparently, there wasn't enough room for them.
Poor caterers.
They're just like, oh, man.
That again. Okay, before we go and move on to our predictions, there's two things I want to talk about postseason testing, because we're recording this on Tuesday. They did postseason testing last night. Yuki Tsunoda was driving the Red Bull with number 22 on it, which I thought was pretty cool.
Yep.
And we had Carlos Sainz in the Williams in an all-white race suit, which I thought was kind of, they take his Ferrari race suit away. They're like, give me that back.
Yeah.
Go get that white one over there. Sainz's first day in a Williams, he set a faster lap time than both Albon's and Colapinto's qualifying time by 0.2.
He's making a statement.
And that also, when it was Albon and Sargent, Albon was looking like a freaking hero. Everyone was like, man, this guy needs another shot. What a turnaround. Colapinto got in there and was kind of in the beginning shaking things up, but then Albon's consistency kind of took over. But there's been, I think, kind of a question mark about how good Albon is. And then you have Carlos Sainz come in and smoke both of them on day one, not even knowing the car. Yep. It's like, ooh, that kind of, I think, puts some of the lid on Albon's future.
It's interesting to see like how that team dynamic's going to go. I'm sure they're going to run it like, you're not the number one, you're not the number two, but
hey, I don't know how you don't run it saying Sainz is number one. Like,
I mean, that's probably like the thought behind it, but you're probably just gonna be like, I will let the results speak for themselves, because they're going to. So on that, also, I've got the lap times pulled up for the Mercedes guys.
Mm-hmm.
So after an entire day of running, George Russell's and Kimi Antonelli's fastest lap was less than 1/10 off of George Russell's fastest lap.
Come on, Kimi.
So that's what I'm saying, man. Next year is going to be so exciting.
We have so many rookies on the grid next year. It's going to be, between them and Lance Stroll, it's going to be ranked pandemonium. Okay, let's do these predictions for the last time.
All right, so the championship in the predictions was already shored up. You won 2 years in a row. Woohoo! Yeah.
Thank you. Could you say that with a little bit more gusto, please?
Congratulations, Dylan. You wiped the floor with me. Clearly, my methodology of just going with my gut is failed me 2 years in a row. So.
Let's get the points from this weekend and let's discuss that, because I think we can make an argument that both of ours have failed. Mine is just slightly better, but you're splitting hairs. So,
all right,
on pole, I had Leclerc.
I had Norris.
You got it. I had Norris in P3.
Who did I have? I had Max in P3.
Yeah, that was a swing and a miss for both of us. Charles Leclerc got that one. P2, I had Leclerc.
I had Leclerc in P2.
Yeah, that was Sainz was the right answer. And P1, I had Max winning it. He screwed his own race up, and Lando deserved that win.
Yep, I had Lando there. So that's 2 points for me.
Wild card, I had Max doing in quali what George did to him last week and being super petty, and I'm very disappointed that he didn't do it.
Because we got to see, like, they went to dinner and they left an open chair next to him. They wouldn't sit next to each other, and then all of a sudden he just grew up for a second and didn't want to do it.
I thought know there had to be a backroom conversation about that. Like,
yeah, Max did come out and say, he was like, we just need a little break. We'll fix it. But that's not what we want. We want blood.
I want pettiness. All right. I want blood, especially against George Russell.
Yep. All right. So my wild card, I had that Alpine was going to lose the constructors to Haas. And man, that didn't happen. But you know, I want to go back for a second because I did have an alternate in the heroes for Pierre Gasly.
Yes.
What
P7.
2 races in a row?
I'm not sure if that Alpine's come alive or what the deal is, but I've never really been a big Pierre fan, and I've never been an Alpine fan, but I'm like excited seeing him do well.
He was on provisional pole for a little bit, like towards the end of quali too. And so to see he was P6 in quali, I think P7 in the race in an Alpine, which like last year's McLaren for the majority of this season was a complete dog. Yeah.
Like,
so
it not only has bad aero, but it also has an underpowered engine. Like,
and it was overweight. Like everything that could be wrong with that car was wrong. So
no, I totally agree with that. So you got 2 points. That brings our season total. I got 50 points. You got 34 points. Now, to put that into context, I did the math. There is an available 174 points.
Oh, damn.
I scored 28.7%. You scored 19.5%. And I say that to gloat a little bit, but also to highlight what an insane year this is. We can't I got slightly over a quarter of them right. Like, you got a fifth of them right. Holy crap.
Yeah, I mean, coming from last year where as long as you put Max on pole and Max P1, it was a shoe-in, 2 points every race, basically. To now this year where it's like, I go into races where I don't know. Like,
I scored 0 points 1, 2, 3, 4 times. You scored 0 points 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times. Like,
can you imagine how exponentially more difficult this will be next year?
Oh, I'm saving this because we're going to be comparing. But that's it's a highlight of what a season this has been. I was talking to a gentleman this morning, shout out to Pat, about how dominant Red Bull has been the past couple of years and how it's kind of made the sport a little bit boring. And I think we can safely say that time has gone. And we are in a much more competitive this year for sure. And next year, I think it's going to be bonkers.
Yeah. I mean, just look at the different race winners that we've had this year. It's going to be incredible.
It's the first year we've had like multiple team with multiple race. I mean, we've broken all kinds of records with the insanity of how close this year's been.
Yep.
So what a season. We got to do a couple of recaps probably.
Oh yeah. Definitely going to do those. So we got the off season. Obviously, I think we got like 97 more days until
something like that.
I think testing something ridiculous. So we'll come up with some stuff in the meantime. But yeah, we'll be back probably most recently with a good season recap there. But yeah, I think that
we might actually have to watch I've never watched the award ceremony. I always just see the Instagram posts afterwards.
I'll watch the highlights of it.
Yeah, but.
Cool. Well, hey guys, make sure you check us out on YouTube. We've been uploading there for a bit. We're trying to grow that so we can do some more stuff on our YouTube. It's Formula America Podcast there, Formula_America on Instagram. And if you like this podcast, make sure you share it with a friend, leave a rating and a review. But man, I think that might be it, which is kind of sad because that's the last one of the season. Damn. Yep. Moment of silence. All right, Dylan, you got anything else?
No.
All right. Well, on that note,
stay classy, America.
We'll see you next time.